All right, guys, so this is part 2 of midterm review number 1. We did 1 through 8 on the first part, so if you need those, go back to that video. This is 9 on. The first one says, number 9, which of the following shows a relationship that is a function? We've got a couple of different representations here, but what you need to remember is that if you have an x value that repeats and has different y values, it cannot be a function. You can't plug in an x and get out 2 different values. So let's look at the first table. I've got 1, 3, 4, 7 for my x's, 2, 5, 6, 7. None of my x's repeat, so it is a function. But on the next one, I have 7, negative 1, 3, and 7. So I have 7 equaling 5 and 2, and that can't happen. So I'm going to say no. I can't have the repeating x's. Now here I have a mapping, and it's not mapped on your paper, but I'll map it right now. There you go. I have negative 3, 4, 6, and 12. None of the x's repeat. So I have a function, and then I've got a set of points. I have 3, 4, negative 2, 8, 9, negative 4, negative 3, 7, negative 2, 12. So if I look at the x values, I see that negative 2 somehow will equal 8 one time and 12 another. That cannot happen. This is not a function. So I'm going to write up here, no repeating x's. No repeating x's. All right. Let's go on to number 10. Now it says find the rate of change in the following graph. What rate of change means, if you don't remember, is slope. And if we're finding slope off of a graph, we're going to use rise over run. Now you remember a couple of things here. If it's up and to the right, we have a positive slope. Down and to the right, we have a negative slope. So if we look at our line right now, it looks like my slope, m, is going to be positive. I'm going to try to find 2 nice points to make it go through. It crosses right here about at negative 8. Looks like it crosses up here at positive 4. Now I want to point something out. The scale on this is not by ones. It goes up by 2. So 2, 4, 6, negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, 2, 4. So if I'm going to go over, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for my run, 1, 2, 3, 4 for my rise. So my slope is 4 over 8, but that's not going to be an answer choice because that's not simplified. My slope is actually 1/2. So be careful there. It's really easy to mess that up, but even if it's the scale on this one, it wouldn't have mattered much. But if you missed the scale on a test or on the benchmark, it's going to mess you up pretty good. So watch the scale. That will happen. Let's look at this number 11. It says write the inequality for the that is shown below. Now, this is actually shaded. I couldn't make the computer do it, so I'm going to do it right here. This is shaded on that side. It looks like it's shaded above my line. Now, I need to go ahead and find an equation for that. To do it, I'm going to find y equals mx plus b, but it's an inequality. So I'm going to use an inequality instead of an equal. But other than that, it's pretty much the same as just using y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to find the slope first. I've got lots of points to choose from. I'm going to choose these 2. It looks like it's positive. I have a run of 1, a rise of 2. So my slope is 2 over 1, or it just equals 2. I need to find b, my y-intercept. I look over here where it crosses the y-axis. It crosses at positive 1, so b equals 1. Now I'm going to fill that into y equals mx plus b, but I'm going to leave out the equals. So y, leave some space. My slope is 2 times x. My b is plus 1. Now there's a couple of things you need to remember. If it's less than or greater than, it's a dotted line. If it's less than equal to or greater than or equal to, then it's solid. Now we have a solid line, so it's also going to be equal to, but we need to talk about how we find out what's greater than. If y is less than or equal to, it should be shaded below. If y is greater than or equal to, you're going to shade above. Now if I look over here, down here it's not shaded when x is like negative 3, but up here when x is 6, it is shaded. So it's shaded above. and it's solid, so y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1. Let's go to the next page. Let's finish this one up. So number 12 just wants us to graph the following. It says first graph x equals negative 2. Well, if it's x equals, guys, it has to pass through an x value, which means it has to be a vertical line. So if I come down here to x equals negative 2, it's going to be a vertical line that goes through that point. Now I'm going to go ahead and go down to number 10 because it talks about x equals. It says write an equation that's perpendicular to x equals negative 2. Well, perpendicular to vertical needs to be horizontal. So horizontal lines y equals, and any y equals is going to be perpendicular to that, so maybe y equals 1. It also says write an equation that's parallel to x equals negative 2. Well, parallel line would have to be a vertical line also, so it must be x equals. It didn't specify what, so let's say x equals 4. Now you also need to think about what's parallel and perpendicular to what axis. I have an x-axis here and a y-axis here, and if I look at the line I drew, I can see that my x equals is parallel to the y-axis. But I can also see that it is perpendicular, that's the sign for perpendicular, to the x-axis. So that's important to remember. Now let's go over to the second graph. It says y equals 7. Y is a horizontal line. It has to go through 7. The only line that can go through that would be horizontal. Now let's answer some questions about that one. Write an equation of something that's perpendicular to that. Well, perpendicular to horizontal is vertical, so maybe x equals negative 2. It also asks for one that's parallel. Well, if it's parallel to y equals 7, it's got to be horizontal, so y equals, and maybe I put 2. Now you need to remember some stuff about y equals too. Y equals is parallel to the x-axis. It is perpendicular to the y-axis. So those are pretty important things to remember. I'm going to put little stars next to that. It might help you out a little bit. All right, let's go down to the next one. We're almost finished. This is the last one. It says graph the solution to the given inequality. So if we're going to graph this, first we need to solve it for x. So I'm going to have to do some distribution. 4 times x gives me 4x. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. That's less than or equal to 2 times x, which is 2x, and 2 times 1, which is 2. Now I need to move my x's to the same side, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. So now I have 4x minus 8 is less than or equal to 2. I need to move that 8 over, so I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And I get 4x. I'm sorry, it's not 4x. Oh my goodness. 4x minus 2x gave me 2x. So I have 2x is less than or equal to 10. If I divide both sides by 2, I get x is less than or equal to 5. Now it's great if you can do that, but it said to graph it. So I'm going to draw a number line. I'm going to put my positive 5 here. Now, if it was greater than or less than, it's an open point. If it's greater than or equal to and less than or equal to, it's a closed point. This is less than or equal to, so I'm going to draw my solid point, and I want all the x's that are less than 5, so I'm going to draw an arrow back to the left. So that's the end of review number 1, guys. Trust me, if you study, you will do good on that benchmark. So good luck.